Welcome to another session of Code with Addo. See this as a continuation of the first CSS we did, CSS for beginners. So you can see this as CSS for beginners part 2. Okay, so what we are going to do, we want to work strictly with our design this time around. This is the design we've been working to achieve. But all I've done in the first session of this CSS for beginners we did was to take you by the hand step by step to introduce basic things such as styles, inline CSS, internal CSS, external CSS. And I said external CSS is the main thing we'll be using, because with external CSS, you can style so many pages and make your work consistent. We've gone through that. I don't want to go through that again in this course. So what we want to do is I want to head on straight to work strictly with this, our design. Okay, if there are some things here that are still kind of difficult, that are confusing, please, I will recommend you go back to learn. You go back to watch the first video we did for CSS for beginners. Here I explained everything step by step, and everything you need to know before you can dive into this. I've explained them there. So in this particular CSS for beginners part 2, I'm not going to take your time. I'm just going to head on straight immediately and to style this HTML work. We did something, then we took it back to the default. So we already have the HTML file. So what all we just want to do now is to apply CSS and to style it using media query and flex. Using flex and media query, I've already explained what flex is, what media query is. I've explained div. I've explained many other introductory things you need to know in the part 1 of this video. So if by any chance you are just on this CSS for beginners part 2 and you don't have prior knowledge on CSS, I will advise that you go back, check within our channel, or follow this link and watch the CSS for beginners part 1, so you can always follow along and understand everything we are doing here. Once again, especially if you are new to this channel, please do well to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and always keep your notification bell on to be in touch with us whenever new updates are dropped. You may want to be part of our Discord community. Please check our description link and follow our Discord channel to be part of our wonderful Discord community. Without much ado, please permit me now, let's head on to the editor to do justice to this HTML work. And on our desktop, this is the file we have. Let me just bring it out. This is the file, this HTML. So how you open your editor, once it's open, you can come to file and open folder. Trace is on desktop, yes. Trace, this is the folder, select folder. Okay, it's here. This is what we have. This is the logo, and this is the HTML file. Okay, or another simpler way you may want to do this, if you don't want to stress yourself, you can just drag. If everything is on the desktop or within one folder, you can just drag and paste it directly on Visual Studio. Yes, for the sake of this our tutorial, we are using Visual Studio. Visual Studio is an editor, one of the most popular and free open source editors there for programmers, and I have a course on this. Check the channel too if you need help on getting started on how to download and install and set up your Visual Studio. Please follow on and check the video, or use this link and access and get that up. Okay, all is just about you visiting their official website at code.visualstudios.com. There you can download for any of the operating system, either Mac OS, Linux OS, or Windows OS. Whichever fits what you have will definitely work. So right now, remember, like I said, we have this file from our CSS for beginners part 1, like I would want to call it, and let's look at how this look on the browser. We can right click and open with any browser, but for the sake of this, let's open with Google Chrome. So imagine this website. Look at how it is right now, looking so funny, like you write something on a board, like you write something on a board. You know, CSS, it's like the makeup of markup language. When I say makeup, you know, when a beautiful lady baits, yes, when a beautiful lady baits, most time when the makeup come, you know the difference the makeup makes on the face of a beautiful lady. It's like you use your filter on your picture and every other thing. So see CSS like that. We've already explained the basics of CSS in the first part of this section. Okay, so with respect to this our design, what I'm going to do, I want to take it section by section. I'll take this first line, which is like the header that has the logo to the left and has the menu to the right. Then we'll take the middle section, then we'll take the last section, which is the footer. Okay, we'll arrange it and work in line with this design we have up here that we want to try and achieve. Yes. So the first thing I want to do here is this. Let's head on to the HTML file. Firstly, we don't have the CSS file. And like I said, we want to use external CSS for this. We've already explained the different types of linking in the first course. That is inline CSS, internal CSS, and external CSS. But in this case, what we are going to do is we are going for the external CSS, right? So what we'll do is that to go for the external CSS, the first thing we do, we come to the head. It has to be in the head tag. We start with less than link, rel, which is relationship. Then this is style sheets, okay? Then we link the file href. Then we can call the name of the file anything, but it must end with .css. So we call it styles.css. That means we need to go and create this file in the folder and call it styles.css. Okay, like I said, to link your CSS, all you need to do is this line, link less than link space rel then equal to style sheet, then you link the name of the style. So what are the attributes? Let me just explain this briefly. The element name here, the word link, what it does is that it defines a relationship between this current document index.html and an external resource, which is this styles.css we've just linked it to, but we've not created it, but we'll do that. Then the rel here, this rel relationship, like I said, it tells the browser that the linked file is a style sheet. Actually, without this, the browser won't apply the style. Without this style sheet here, it won't apply. Remember, I've said this several times that CSS is not a programming language. It is a style sheet language. Okay. Likewise, too, HTML is also not a programming language. It is a markup language. Please take note of that. Why the hypertext reference specifies the path location of the CSS file. In this case, it is looking for the file name styles.css in the same folder. You may want to have it inside another folder. Let's say maybe you want to have it inside assets. Maybe you have a folder asset, then it is inside that asset you create the styles.css. Maybe let's use it that way. Yes, let's have an asset. So what you do is that in your file, you could create it within Visual Studio anyway, but you might want to come and create it here. You come and say new folder. So maybe you call this assets. Okay. So inside this asset, let's now create a file. Let me do Control N, or you can go to File and click on new file. Okay, or you use your Control N for Windows. Okay, so once we have there, without even putting anything, we can save. So when we want to save, we can come into this assets and call it styles.css. It can be anything, but it must have the .css extension if it is for style sheet, if it is for CSS. So we have this quite all right now. That is very good. And once we refresh the page, no changes, nothing has happened. We've only linked this stuff. So what I want to explain briefly before we go on is this. Number one, I want to use, we talked about selectors. We've talked about selectors such as there is a type selector or tag selector, there is the ID selector, there is a class selectors, and a whole lot of selectors. So what I want to do here is this. I want to target the body element. Yes, I want to target the body element. The body element represents the entire document container of your web page. Yes, I said it that in your HTML, everything, almost everything that gets rendered on the page are everything within the body tag, although there might be some, such as your title, such as your favicon and everything. But for now, what I want to do is that for the purpose of this CSS, I want to target the I want to use the type selector to target the body directly. Okay, and what I want to do here is this: I want to give it a height of 100 viewport height. 100 viewport height. And when you come and refresh, what happens? You see that by default a scroll bar is added here. The reason for this scroll bar, there's how you can do. You could use minimum height, or you could just give it margin 0, whatever 0. But we use the 100 viewport height for the height of the body, primarily to ensure that the background or layout fills the entire visible screen, even if there are little content on the page. Yes, without this, the body only grows as tall as the content inside it. If you have only one sentence, maybe hello world, your body might only be 20% and 20 pixels tall, which can break designs like centered boxes or sticky footers and a lot of things. Okay, now like I said, this is CSS for beginners. When we go advanced on the advanced courses, there are many things we might want to introduce that will make this sticky. But for now, please just see this way, that it allows, it ensures that the background or the layout, the content fills the entire visible screen, even if there are little content on the page. Okay, is to bring about consistency and everything. Just like saying it, give it 100%. 100%. What it used, it used the 100% viewport height for the height of the body. Like I said, primarily to ensure that the background or layer fills the entire visible screen. Okay, please take note of that. Like I said, we are going to be taking this thing section by section. So let's take the header. Already we've added our class to the HTML. So what we'll do is that we have inside the header, the header is a semantic tag. We have the class header wrapper. Header wrapper, it's called the class. So what we are going to do, remember, for the purpose of this thing, what we are learning mainly is how to use flex and media query. Okay, so that on mobile devices it's column, it renders in column, while on larger screens it renders in row. We've already explained the work of media query, how it renders both in row and column, and we know that by default the flex direction of a flex are always in row, but we purposely put it in column because we are giving priority to mobile devices. Yes, in modern web development, when you build your web pages and your website, you give priority to mobile devices because over 80% of people that surf the net are usually doing that via their mobile devices, such as their phone, tab, and what have you. Okay, so please take note and let's follow on with what we are doing. So the first thing I want to do is that I will use the class wrapper. I will use the class wrapper. Here we have this, as in I will use the class selector. We have this as a class here. So what we are going to do, how do we use our class selector? We say we'll put this full stop, then we call it this way. Okay, so once we call it this way, the first thing we are going to do here is that we are going to make it a flex by saying display flex, right? Then the next one, we give it a flex direction, and we give it column. Okay, so once we give it column, right from even the beginning, I want to start and bring in our media query. We've already explained this. The essence of the first CSS class is to explain this thing one after the other. So but for this, I'm just going to head on straight so that we handle it. So we are taking it section by section. So we are handling the header first. So what I'll do is that I'll come and I'll say at media. Okay, so once I say at media, I'll say minimum width. I'll give it 768 pixels. Yes, let's maintain 768 pixels. Okay, so once we say 768 pixels, what happened is that inside this place I call the same header wrapper, and I now give it a flex direction. Of what? Sorry, I give it a flex direction of what? Row. So what I'm saying is that if the minimum width is 768, that means it's no longer mobile devices. That means if the minimum width is 768, it's no longer mobile devices such as phone and tab. These are now larger screen. So change the flex direction to row. That is the first thing we've done. If you come to refresh, nothing may have applied, but you can see that something has already moved. You see, there has already changes here because you've already defined it. And why you are seeing this home about us services is because why they are appearing this way is because when you come, we've already defined everything we need in our H. We've already added a class for menu and we've put them as div. And remember that by default, right? By default, div come one on top of another. We've already explained that when we did div. So look at this home, about us, services. It comes one on top of the other. But what we have now is that when we render this, right? Because because we're on desktop, you could see already that the logo to the left and this menu, they are now side by side. Like we have two children. Remember the parent and children. Here, inside this header wrapper, we have the logo div. So this div is to the left, this one is to the right. Okay, so the whole of this div, we've not made it a flex. This is just to remain this way. This is also not a flex yet. So we have two divs inside the header wrapper. And remember, the header wrapper in this case is the parent. And like I said, once you mix it flex to control the children inside it, whatever you apply to the parent applies directly to the children. And that is what just we've seen. Now, like I said, if you want to view this thing on mobile, you could use your restore. This top R, this top right, okay? This center is minimized, this is minimized, this is restore, this is restore, this is restore, and this is close. So once you come and click on this restore, what happens? You can see the logo comes on top. That means on mobile devices, it is column. That is the essence of our media query. You see the logo comes up while the whole of this div that have this menu right up comes under it. But when it's on larger screen, you can see that it's row. Row is horizontal, while this column means vertical, one on top of the other. But instead of using this restore, the most standard way you can do this is to use your dev tool. So permit me to duplicate this. Let me just create a new tab. I'll copy the same thing we have here and paste here. Is the same thing. I just want us to have a different view, one for the mobile view and one for the desktop. So this is the desktop view, this is the mobile view. So to do this, you right click on inspect, and once you come, you see this device called this where is it? This is called toggle device toolbar. Once you click it, you can see to here. You can even set it to any phone, 14 Pro Max. You can check with different devices, Samsung Galaxy tab. This is how it will appear. But for the sake of this, let's just put it in any mobile. Maybe let's use iPhone 14 Pro Max. Okay, we can leave it in iPhone 14 Pro Max. So once you refresh, this is row, this is column. I hope we are following. This is row, this is column. Maybe let me just add, based on our design, let me add a background color to this. Or maybe before we add any color, let's convert everything to flex so that we now add the background color to the individual elements that we need them to add. So okay, so inside this place we already done for the wrapper itself, which is the parent, div. So now let's start with the children. The children are the things inside it. So after the header wrapper, the first child here is the logo. So still using the class selector, we have dot logo like this. The first thing we also want to do is to make this a flex, because it will also be having its own children, which is the image itself. So now maybe let's talk about the background color now. From our design, we have it as red, right? We have it as red. Then let's give it a justify content. So when we say justify content, is moving the item to the center horizontally. We've explained that, so we give it center. So to move it same way vertically, we say align items, we'll give it what, center as well, right? We'll give it center as well. Then let's give it a padding. Let's give it a padding. But before we even give it a padding, let's refresh so that we follow on one after the other. You can see we are already dealing with this one to the left, this logo. And why this is touching every edge is this: we need the padding so that it's not as if it's touching edge to edge. So we can just give it any padding. Let's give it a padding of 15 pixels. Okay, So once I save, look at the difference here. You can see that now it's now in the box, just like we have it on the design, right? We've taken care of that already. So what we'll do now is that the next one is the menu. Okay, the next one is the menu. So what we'll do is that using same class selector, we do dot menu, open and close the curly braces. The same thing, we give it a display of flex, right? Then flex direction, let's give it a flex direction because it has so many children inside and how we want it. We really did not give this because it's just one child inside, and we said by default it will be rule, and if it is just one child on both devices, it will definitely be fine. So don't, that is why we did not really worry about this. But for this, we want to give it a flex direction, and like I said, by default we'll give it column. And remember, once you give this column, you have to come here and add it to for the menu. Okay, you have to come and call the menu, this same menu you give flex direction of column. You have to come and say if it is on smaller, as in if it's on a bigger device, let it be what, let it remain we will say menu dot menu. So if you have multiple things you want to apply the same property to, you can use comma then and call it this way. If there are other one, you add comma here. So I usually love to do it this way even before going too far. Okay, so now it also has, from our design, we have a background color. So the background color here, it's yellow. You could use your hexadecimal, right? But for this, let's just leave it. Or maybe let's use hexadecimal. So for yellow, what is our hexadecimal? That is hashtag FFFF00. Okay, it's just to help us have a lot of shade that we can work with. So the same thing we'll do is this. We'll say justify content. Justify content. We'll give it center as well. That is, take it to the center horizontally. Then also align items for the vertical center. We'll also give it center, right? Now let's save and see what happens. Good. Now once we save, it applies, but these things are just touching themselves, like they are, the way they are close to themselves. So number one, let's have like a division. Let's look at the width. And what we've said, we've already talked about that using flex, that is using ratio, right? So what we'll do is that we could say let the menu be times 5 if we want the menu to be times 5 of the logo. So here we'll come and say flex 1, then here we'll say flex with the flex 5. I've explained this in the first section, so I don't want to waste time on this. Okay, so once we have it this way, you see it has opened out itself. So we've dealt with the first parent. The parent now, that is the header wrapper is the parent. Look at it, we are still here. This is the parent, this is the header wrapper. So we've said share, distribute the width between the children, and the two children here are what, the class logo and the class menu. So that is the first thing we dealt with. So we say let this take 1%, like one part of it, then let the menu take like times 5. That is the essence of what we've just done now, which is very, very fine, which is very, very fine. So the next thing we want to look at itself, it's this children inside this menu. We have we've already called this menu already, right? We've already called this menu, which is fine. So but now what we want to do is that inside this menu too, it also has its own children, which is menu item 1, menu item 2, menu item 3. So we are going to call them all together. We are going to make them flex, and we are also going to divide the text into equal parts. Since they are equal thing, we want equal division between them. So actually what we'll do now is this. We can come and look at this we have a class for each of the children again, right? We have a class for each of this menu, which is also inside of which is the write up menu text. And maybe let's change the color and let's give them a different font size. Let's start with that. So all we're just interested in that one is the color and the font size. Okay, I'm just working with respect to this design and I'm trying to pick it one one after the other. Okay, so now this is what we'll do. As a matter of fact, even this menu, this first menu here, we really, okay, let's leave it. Let's go on with what we are doing. So the next thing we are going to do now is this. We'll go to the menu text, we'll give it a color and a font size. We'll come again using the class selector. We'll call the menu text, menu text. Okay, so we'll give it a color. Let's call this maybe blue based on the design. Then I don't know this one. Let's just give it any reasonable something. Let's give it 20 pixels. Okay, let's give it 20 pixels. So once we come, we save. So what we are targeting are these text first of all. Okay, so once we refresh, you see they are blue and it has become bigger, but it's still stacked up all together, and that one is not an issue. Remember, individual text, they have each of their own class, which is um menu item 1, menu item 2, and what have you. So we are going to call them and make them flex, because before we can apply that flex ratio division in terms of the width, we have to make each of them a flex. So we can just copy any of them. The only difference between their 1, 2, 3, 4. So what we do is that, still using the same class selector, we will say this comma dot this is 2. Okay, then dot this is 3, right? Then dot this, and this is 4. So what we do is that we get them this way, and we say display their flex. Okay, display is flex, and the division, let's give them equal, let them spread out. So once we come now, since they are spread out, let's come and refresh. Yes, good. We have this we have this this is almost touching. If we like, we could go to the parent. What is the parent? What is the parent holding that in? Menu. Okay, the parent holding it is menu. So if we could come to menu and give it padding. You know what padding is? Padding is for the internal spacing inside, so it doesn't touch the edge, while margin is for the external. So if we should come and maybe give it 15 pixels and we'll refresh. Good, you see it's no longer touching, and even on the mobile it's perfect. We have it this way. Okay, this is great. Now we've handled the header and we've made it responsive. Now the essence of flex and media query is to make your work responsive using CSS. Okay, once you refresh on larger screen, it is rolled on smaller screen. You can see it here. Everything is perfect. So I think for now we are done with the header. And it is perfect. So the next thing we would need to look at now, it's the main body, which is this registration form. Okay, which is the registration form. So now let's go back to our HTML. All we just need to do is to apply the same thing. That should even be easier. So what it's the wrapper, this is, we have the form wrapper. It's inside the next semantic tag main. This is the main, it's inside the main. So what we want to do now is the form wrapper. We want to get the form wrapper. We want to make it a column by default, but also add it to media query that for larger screen it should be on row. Then after that, we'll look at the content inside it. It has one child that have other children, called the form content. Okay, but like I said, we take it from top to bottom. So what we'll do now is that the next thing we are going to do is to call the form. Okay, to call the form wrapper. So we'll come here. Maybe we want to take it after each of this menu. After each of this menu, the next thing we'll look at is the form wrapper. Still using class selector. So what we'll do is that we'll say form wrapper, especially exactly as it is written in that class, or to avoid error, you may want to copy and paste. And like we usually do, the first thing we do here is that let's make it a flex. That is usually the first thing. Display flex. Okay, then after making it a flex, like I said, flex direction will make it column. So immediately we do that, usually me, I would come and add it here under the media query immediately, even before continue. That means I will do the form wrapper. Okay, so rule has been applied. If it's on a larger screen, that means it will become a rule. Let's go on. So justify content, let's get it at the center based on our design. But here we don't want to use align content. We don't want to use align content because we don't want it to be vertically centered. We want it to remain up at the center, just the way we have it on this our design. Okay, and we don't want to give it a height. Yes, because we want the form to we want the children to control it, so we might leave that height for now. Or for now, in order just to have a partition or a section, let's give it a height. Let's give it a height. We might remove it later, but I might not want to just give it a height this time around. I might want to say minimum height, so that that is the minimum, in case if the content are more than that, it can always stretch out. Okay, so I might just want to say 500 pixels, right? And the same thing, will give it a padding so that it doesn't just start, of course, from, once you are used to CSS, once you are defining your properties from head, you already know what the basic things you need to cover. Yeah, so once we refresh this way, we have it this way, nothing might actually um change apart from it coming to the center and what have you. And based on our design, it has a background color. It has a background color, and that background color seems to be like a dark something. But this time around, we are not going to apply the background color, because if we apply the background color like gray, okay, if we should apply this background color that is like dark gray now, if we should apply it, let's say, if we should say if we should say background color, maybe we just say gray, for example. Let's give it a gray. If it's not there, we'll get the exact hexadecimal code. You see, it's applying to everything here. Okay, remember that this also have another child, which is the form content. So it is that form content we are going to give that gray color. That is what we are going to give the gray color. Not if you give this, it's going to give the entire something. So for here, we are going to remove this background color. Control Z. Let's remove the background color, and it is when we are dealing with the form content, we'll give that background color. Okay, all right. So that means the next thing we want to look at now, it's what it's inside the form wrapper, which is this form content, right? So we'll call this, and after this form wrapper, we'll also use our class selector and give it, of course, the first thing, like, we'll make it a flex, right? So we say display flex. Okay, display flex. So since this thing is inside the center of a content, what we want to do is that we want it to have a complete width. Let's give it a complete width of 100%, so that it will match up and be exactly in the center of what we want. We give it a width of 100%. Then we also want to give it a maximum width, so this would enable it to flow exactly in the center. So we say maximum width. You have to picture this from the design. It is at the center, right? It is at the center. This content we have for the form is at the center, so we want it that, let it have a fixed width, so that it can always remain in the center of this form wrapper. It has its own children, so that uh it can bring out that unique layout. Please take note, if this is strange to you, like I said, if you have any question, just drop it on the comment section. But once you go through the first course we did, it will be easier for you to relate and understand. Okay, and I won't want to waste much time on this course over what we've done in the first class. That's why I've said it right from the beginning. If this is still strange to you, and if you have no basic and prior knowledge and understand in details why we are doing all these things we are doing, please go back and check within the channel and check for the first course, which is like CSS for beginners part 1. Even though part 1 is not there, this is the continuation of that. So once you've gone through that, this will be easier for you to relate and understand. And like I said, if you always have any question, please drop it on the comment section, or you can reach me one-on-one at codewithaddo@gmail.com. And please do well to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and keep your bell notification on to always be in touch with us when new updates are dropped. So in order to have this gray width to be fixed, let's give it, and that's why I want to use maximum width. I don't want it to be more than that. Yes, I don't want it to be more than that. So let's say I give it a maximum width of 500 pixels. Okay, then this time around, let's give it the same background color we are looking for it. So if I should come and give it background color, the background color, based on our design, I've checked the documentation of the design we have. There is an hexadecimal color. So, and this is the code is this. It is 1E293B 3B. All right. So that is the color there. That is the color there for the form content. Okay. And the form content itself has a color of white. When we say white, we are talking about the text in it and everything, not the background color. Background color is different from color. When you say background color, it's talking about the background color. But when you talk about normal color, color is talking about the fonts and all the write-ups and partition in it. And as we can see from the design, it is white. White or F in 6 places in case you are using hexadecimal, or let's just maintain hexadecimal here. So let's give it hashtag first FFFFFF, that it's white. Okay. Then for the last time, let's give it for the last feature here. It's also at the center. So, and we want it just to be horizontally centered, not vertically centered. So that will be justify content for horizontal center. So we'll make it center, and like you always know, let's just give it a little padding so that these things are not touching the edges. Okay, so that these things are not touching the edges and everything. It's fine. So let's say we give it 5 pixels and we save. So once we come and refresh, what do we have here? Look at what we have here. Okay, you see what we have here. If this height is too much, you can always reduce it, based on what we've done. Yes, we have it this way. And when we check it on the mobile device, you see you also have it this way on it, right? I think so far everything is still in line. Okay, remember, like I said, once you add more things to it, it will make it work and adjust automatically. So we have this already, and I think the very last thing here for us to look at it from the HTML and the design is the footer. And of course that should be even the most easiest thing, the most straightforward thing to do here. Code with Addo 2025. Yes, we could leave it or we change it to 2026 based on this particular date. The design might have been done maybe few days ago, and we are just few days into the new year 2026, but let's maintain it. Code with Addo 2026. So what we are going to do is that we have two things here. We have the class footer and we have the class footer text. So those are the two things we are going to handle. But of course, the footer will also make it to be responsive so that on desktop it is on roll, while on mobile device it is on what? It is on column. Okay, so what we are going to do is that after everything, under the form content now, under the form content in our style, under the form content, we are coming here using the same class selector. So we'll say dot footer, right? Dot footer, and number one, the very first thing we make it is display flex. Yes, flex direction. Of course, we make it what? Colon. And remember, like I always do, once I do that, I will immediately come and add it here to footer so that that also applies and make it responsive. Okay, so the other thing here is the flex. Want to justify it, let it be at the center, both horizontal and vertical, since it's just one child that it's inside. So what we'll do is that we'll come for horizontal center, we'll say justify content center, then align items for vertical um alignment. Will also give it what? Center. Then the last thing in here, we have a background color for it. Yeah, we have a background color, and based on our design, the background color is also an hexadecimal color, and it is 1E29 and 3B, the same one we have there for the body. You can see it's obvious. Okay, yeah. So I think let's look at what we have here. Let's look at it from here. So once we refresh here, we have it this way. Okay, but once we have it this way, the text inside we have to make it white. Okay, we have to make it white. We have to make it white. we have to make it white. Once we refresh, we have to make it white so that it can apply. Right, so what we'll do now is that, and what do we have inside this place? What is it? It's, let's look at the index.html. What is the name? Okay, this paragraph has footer text. It has footer text. It has footer text. So the last thing we're going to do here is this. Under here we have it, footer text dot footer text. Okay, so we have it this way, and color, it is not background color, it is just color, so it applies to the children. That is the text. Okay, so we'll say white if we are maintaining our hexadecimal. FF. Yeah, that is white. If these colors are confusing, please check your hexadecimal color and understand them. Maybe we'll give it a font size too. Maybe we say 12 pixels and we save. Okay, so once we save and we refresh, perfect, we have everything in line, at least close to what we need for our this thing. And when we refresh on the mobile also, we have it this way, which it's okay, which is might not be 100% perfect. And remember, for things like menu, standardly we might want to use JavaScript, that once it is here, it becomes a toggle that you click and it's collapsed and it opens just like the way you have it under. That is when we go advanced. But for the purpose of what we are doing, this is perfect enough. It is good enough. And once you understand this, it's just a step ahead of you to become that professional and to be able to work and align with any standard internationally. These are like the minimum basic, using Flex and Media Query to have a responsive and modern design that aligns with best international practices. Okay, and like I said, this is just like CSS part 2, CSS for beginners part 2. We have the part 1, which is the first thing we've done. Check within the channel or use this link, and if you have any question, you can always drop it on the comment section. You can reach out one-on-one at codewithaddo@gmail.com. Okay, and always do well to like our videos, just like this very one. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and keep your notification bell on to keep in touch with us while we drop other updates. Okay, thanks for sticking by, and see you in another session of Code with Addo. Thank you and God bless you.